just goes to show how true it is that we have to go through an educational shift here, like a conscious, a transformation of human consciousness, and that has to be facilitated by education. Education becomes the most important thing in this transition. It's almost impossible. Like the new economy, the new world will rely on educated human beings who already think differently and have different preferences and know how to translate what they're feeling and their fears into what is actually the problem and what is actually the solution. Because what you're describing, and let me just kind of recap something that we started from, and I think that was beautifully explained, that we are basically experiencing a knee-jerk reaction of people, of individuals, of companies, of governments, that is just basically saying, let's go back as quickly as possible to what we know because we don't know anything else. And
I'm scared that I'm not going to have food. I'm scared
right.
I'm going to lose my home. It's
right.
not...
So we need to focus on education of and informing and bringing to awareness of people two things. Yes, you can and will have food and security and medicine and everything you need. And no, it doesn't have to be in the constraints of the old world. We can build it in a new way. Can you talk a little bit about how we can build it in a new way, Mutlu?
Absolutely, you can build it much better in a new way, simply because now you're cutting down on all the resources that were previously being spent on a lot of things that were not necessary for humanity. Everybody,
for example,
all the governments are saying, well, we don't have money for this. Well, wait a minute. You've been spending a bunch of money on a lot of useless stuff that we never needed in the first place. And now you're telling me you can't provide food for the people or health for the people? In 2008, they had the financial crisis. And what they did then was print money and save the banks. And they did something really against capitalism. All right? Because capitalism governs that, listen, if somebody needs to fall, they need to fall. But they didn't let that happen. So they failed in applying an economic model which they were supporting in the first place. What did they do? They saved the banks. They took everybody's home because they couldn't pay the mortgages. So a bunch of people were left homeless. The banks got all the money, and all the money that the banks did get, they got paid for their salaries and bonuses. Can you imagine that?
It's
ironic. No shortage.
It's ironic.
Exactly. It is absolute corruption. And whenever governments say, well, our economy can't handle this, or we can't do this, and we don't have funds, it is simply corruption and nothing more. Every government on every planet has the ability, the power, and the resources to utilize the government, to divide labor, to work on necessities or what we need to get to survive. And no country has any shortage of that unless they've got a corrupt government.
And every country has a corrupt government. And every single country has a corrupt government.
Okay.
Listen, technology.
Yeah, go ahead.
Technology is so advanced right now. You can feed people from warehouses. You can feed people from just regular homes, rooftops. It is not a matter of how to feed people. It is not a matter of how to look after people. It is a problem of how to make a few people even richer. That is the dilemma they have.
Yeah, I heard they're going to bail out the airlines now.
Yeah, but why would you? Why would you? You are completely disrupting capitalism. If you want to be a capitalist, a really good one, you got to let the market forces work. Don't stick your nose in there. And every time they do this, they did this with Bernanke, they did it with Greenspan, they're doing it now with this poor guy who's a new guy in the Fed, and he's just going to blow it. That's it.
I got to say this. Helm of things are missing vision. They have no vision. It's this dichotomy of thinking that we are either capitalists or we have to be communists, and that's where it ends. And you're either this or you're that. And an evolution of human psychology and a change of values and a change of preferences and education as a new foundation for a new society is not even something that people can fathom. It seems like, how do we cross that bridge?
First of all, like I said, we have to cross this sheer ignorance that we have. You describe it rather nice. People think we have to be this or that. We don't have to be this or that. We could be a bit of everything, actually. We could take the best of everything and bring it together, as long as it serves the overall purpose of keeping society together without violence and giving their necessities. Because a lot of the people are already on the planet working just for their necessities. You have to understand, the percentage of people that have a good life is very small. The majority of the people who are already working and living, they work on a day-to-day basis. They make their daily bread, and that's it. They go to work the next day to make, that they work. It's not like a lot of people are working with a vision for future that they're going to retire nicely. That's just not going to happen. So the system here doesn't need to be, turned upside down. It just needs to be managed correctly without the corruption. And I'll tell you this as well. You'll be able to see towards autumn, when they're unable to get out of this little vicious circle of what to do, how to do this and stuff, and they want to keep going back. They're going to hit a high level of unemployment, and you're going to see people all over the world hitting the streets. Venezuela had the same problem. Venezuela is the most richest country in oil resources, the richest. Okay, one little problem, the whole thing went out the door. Why? Because improper management of economy, corrupt management, and lack of calculation of economy, and not knowing what to do with things. This is true for every country. You'll have the same thing in Africa, in Asia, Middle East, Europe, and the US.